Annulus. Journey into the unknown. Through the vortex. Y. Sengyoung. Copyright at 2020 Y. Sengyoung. All rights reserved. Chapter 20. To nuke or not. Zuriel ushered the group into the basement of this building where he had set up his private laboratory to conduct certain experiments that were better to keep away from prying eyes. Colonel Owens whispered some instructions to Sergeant Manning, who went back upstairs to keep watch. As Professor Anatoly stepped into the main part of the huge basement that formed the laboratory, Zuriel signaled him and Ken to follow him into a smaller room with a heavy metal door and all bricked in space, and yanked white cloths off some equipment which the professor immediately recognized. Professor Anatoly, you have your own high-speed multistage centrifuge in your basement lab. Zuriel, yes, is that what you call my equipment in your language? How else can I purify and improve the concentration of UY-235 and UY-238 to conduct my experiments? Colonel Owens joined the three of them and looked over the centrifuge equipment. How do we know we can trust you? Just because you bring us to your basement and show us your experiments. Zuriel, under Helician law, conducting experiments in the long-forgotten atomic technology means definite long prison sentence. If caught by the security forces, I will be a felon. So, I ask you, can I trust all of you with my freedom? Ken, why are you then trusting us with this secret of yours? Zuriel, we Helicians have been mass-feeding our star Helius with different materials for the 10 of your SOL periods in different combinations and with indeterminate results. We need more and more mass to feed our star, and it only slows down the decline of our star. Professor Anatoly, our atomic fission technology is not as advanced as yours, but our understanding of nucleosynthesis process of mass energy transforms in stars is pretty developed. First, can we see your data from Helius? Zuriel led Ken and Professor Anatoly over to main laboratory computer and walked them through all the collected data on the star Helius. Professor Anatoly went through the data and made some calculations on his tablet computer. He walked over to Colonel Owens and gave him a signal to join him in another corner of the laboratory. Ken and Zuriel were engrossed doing mass transform simulations on Zuriel's equipment and did not notice. Colonel Owens, Prof, can we trust this alien Zuriel? How do we stop their light clouds on Earth? Professor Anatoly, Colonel, I believe you have your extreme orders to stop these light clouds at any cost, including giving up your own life if that is necessary. I just do not know how we can help them stop their star from end of its main cycle. It is going to burn up all its hydrogen and then helium, turn into a red giant and destroy their star system and its planets. Colonel Owens, Prof, we have 16 US nukes, and you have 12 Russian ones. Is that enough to blow up this planet and stop them sending their light clouds over to Earth? Professor Anatoly, no, I have a better idea. Listen, their star is about the same size as our sun, so our knowledge of solar core fusion, which I am most knowledgeable about, can be applied here. We help them with our knowledge and apply controlled explosions of one of our nukes to show them we can help them. Colonel Owens, in exchange for them to stop their light clouds? What if they seize our nukes and then turn on us and refuse to stop their light clouds? Professor Anatoly, I intend to trick them to send the 28 nukes to their star and ignite them in a sequence chain explosion that should set off the process of their star going supernova, and this entire planet will be burned to a dead rock in space. Colonel Owens, but that sounds like taking a long time. Earth will be a barren rock by then. Professor Anatoly, Colonel Owens, do you think Ukraine will join this critical mission to save Earth and not contribute to any solution? There are 4 more nukes of even higher explosive power hidden in the compressor room on the habitat. We will use that to destroy most of the Helios-1 infrastructure. The supernova will finish off the rest of their planetary system. Colonel Owens, I suspected the 4 containers loaded into the rear compressor compartment, but my superior officer overruled me when I wanted to take a closer look. Okay, that is the plan then. He nodded his head in agreement, and Professor Anatoly rejoined Ken and Zuriel. Zuriel, our star Helius is at the transition point of a smaller star depending on proton-to-proton fusion process and that of a bigger, more massive star which relies on the carbon-nitrogen-oxygen, CNO, fusion process. I am not in charge of the mass seeding process. I just control the dimensional gate and bring over the elemental materials specified to me. My superior Zekan takes over and works in the Grand Priest Chamber building to prepare the seeding materials, which are then transferred to the loading bay for the spacecraft to launch at Helius. Ken, are you referring to the bluish glowing mass that we saw being loaded into a spacecraft at the loading bay? Zuriel nodded his head. Professor Anatoly, the size of Helius makes it a difficult object to revive. From your star data, we can only guess at its fusion processes, and it looks your star Helius uses the proton-proton process as the fusion process. If the hydrogen in your star is fast burning up, then mass seeding of heavy elements will not work. What you need is to raise the temperature at the core of your star and convert the process to carbon-nitrogen-oxygen process, CNO. Then selective mass seeding of your star will prolong its lifespan. Ken, Professor, you are the expert on this branch of physics, but even if your theory is correct, just how do we do it? Zuriel cut in excitedly. With the total ban on nuclear research, Helician science has large gaps in the understanding of nuclear fission and fusion processes. Professor, is your idea workable? If so, I need evidence to convince the Science Council to authorize research into this. Ken, Professor, even if it works, how do we start? It will take too long to find a solution. We do not even know where to start. Even if we suspect that nuclear reaction is the way forward, it would be like trying to do the Manhattan Project on a scale 100 times larger by next weekend. Professor Anatoly, of course, starting from basic research will take too long. But what if we can use thermonuclear fission to create this massive rise in the temperature of your star's core? Ken, you mean build atomic bombs to blast their star to create this temperature rise? Zuriel, even if the theory is sound, the Council of High Priests will be totally against the whole effort. No, what I need is your knowledge to help me build up a test experiment using computer simulation to at least win the support of my chief scientist Zekan. I want to demonstrate what atomic mass energy transformation with thermonuclear explosions can do to kickstart our star. Then the mass seeding or our star will stabilize the process. On cue, Colonel Owens joined their discussion. If we help you, what is in for us? Will you convince your authorities to call off those light cloud or mass transfer entities as you call them and leave our Earth forever? Zuriel, I cannot guarantee that. But without a convincing simulation demonstration of the mass energy transformation process with thermonuclear energy input, the High Priests will win any debate about the morality of the mass-gathering, seeding process we inflict upon planetary system after system. You must understand the winning argument always comes down to that involving our survival. Ken, so we have to help you to build an atomic bomb to set it off and demonstrate to your High Priests the power of the atom. Even if it does work, it will take some time to reach that level of nuclear device development, and meanwhile Earth will be stripped bare. Professor Anatoly pulled the colonel aside and whispered to each other for a period, and Ken was mystified at being excluded from the discussion. He went over to see if Owen was all right, and in turn pulled him aside and started to talk to him in a whisper. Ken, and I thought I would never see you again. Are you all right? And, Ken, I am so glad to see you safe too, but there is secret about our mission here I found out. Ken, we came here to convince these people here to stop what they're doing on Earth. Tell me if I am wrong. And, well, yes, but if these people do not listen to us, we will have to convince them. We brought along with us nuclear bombs, precisely 28 of them, and I understand these are of the megaton planet buster size. Ken, what? We are just trying to set up a dialogue with this side, and without giving that a chance, we plan to blow them up. Who knows about the weapons? Wait and do not tell me, the colonel and the professor, of course. Then if I can guess, that must be what the colonel and the professor is talking about right now. And looked in the direction of the colonel, and something else caught her eyes. Jake and Zilia were gathered around a piece of equipment that Zuriel was pointing at from where he and the others were. Ken walked over to where Jake and Zilia was. Jake waved for his father Ron to join them, and Zilia in turn waved for her father Zuriel to join them. The others quickly joined them too. Zuriel spoke first. this is the special equipment that Zuriel and I have been working on during our free time. It is? Zuriel cut in, Father, let me spend time here when he is not working. We take the minute samples of purified UX material as test material. And I have been showing Jake some of the experiments we were conducting on mass energy transfer. Some were successful, and some were not so. Jake has some ideas that can. Zuriel then excitedly took Jake's hand in hers, and together their fingers were punching in coded instructions onto the twin keyboards. Zuriel wanted to object, but then he glanced up at the display monitors switching from Zuriel's and then Jake's. Ron was about to yank Jake off the terminal, but Zuriel stuck his hand out to stop him. No, let them continue, the readings look really interesting. Ken and the prof stared at the screen intently and noticed what looked like a whiteboard. Prof walked to the whiteboard over and started to scrawl diagrams and equations. Zuriel injected with comments and partial equations when either of them got stuck, and was totally bemused with the technical bustle around her and could not hold it back any longer. What, may I ask, is happening right here before my eyes? It seems like there is a common unspoken language here that I do not speak. The colonel looked at Ken and the prof disapprovingly and was about to stop them from collaborating with whatever they were doing with Zuriel and the two teens when Zuriel uttered, Hey, we have cracked it. With that, Ken signaled for Anne and the professor to join him, and together they walked over to where the colonel was. Ken, Colonel, with all due respect, when do you think is the right time to tell us about the 28 nukes we carry on the habitat? Professor Anatoly intervened on behalf of the colonel. Ken, calm down. We did not mean to hide this from you. We were not meant to use them except if all means of communications fail to convince them to stop what they are doing to Earth. Now we must decide, the three of us, can we trust Zuriel, and then we assist him to swing their council decision to agree to stop those light clouds. If that happens, then we help them save their star, right? Colonel Owens, you mean we are to believe that they can be convinced to stop stripping our planet of their materials they are looking for? No, I rather just blow them up with our nukes. Professor Anatoly, the Helians have very advanced energy shields which may stop our nukes from having any effect. Colonel Owens, our bops will blow through anything just by the brute explosive force released.